Hi everyone. This lesson will be teaching you how to include verbal citations in your informational speech. First of all, the question is, why do we have to include citations? Well, you can probably answer this question already based on your experiences in English classes. Citing your sources gives you credibility. It backs up what you have to say with information from others. Citing helps you avoid plagiarism because it proves to the audience that you are acknowledging that these ideas came from elsewhere. It can also help you by showing the timeliness of your claims. If you can share this source and show that it was from a study conducted in summer of 2020, then your audience will know that this is good, relevant, recent information. So I suspect your experience with citations has mostly been when it comes to research papers. And when you do a research paper, you include two ways of citing your sources. Number one, you create a works cited page, and that includes full bibliographic information for each of your sources. You have to put it in a certain order and a certain formatting. And you also create what we call parenthetical citations, which go in parentheses in the middle of your text. So you'll be reading along a sentence and then there will be parentheses and it'll say something like Davis 15, if Mr. Davis was the author and this showed up on page 15, which is fine in reading. In fact, the goal is that parenthetical citation will take you out. It will reference something on your works cited page where people can go to find more information. The problem is in speeches, number one, your audience does not have your works cited page with them to reference. And number two, it would sound really awkward if you just said something and then stopped and gave this random last name and a page number. So what we have to do instead is include our citations verbally. So what does this look like? Well, first of all, we have to remember to be brief, but provide enough information that our audiences can track down the sources. That's a balance that we need to find. We have to highlight what is the most important criteria for that source. So we're going to have information about this source, maybe the author, their credentials, the title of the article, where it was published, the date of it. All of this information may or may not be useful or necessary for your source. Maybe the author's name, if they're very recognizable, that's going to be most important. Maybe the date would be the most important. You're going to have to make that decision when you're creating your verbal citation. And finally, last tip is that your verbal citation should come before the information that you're presenting from it. Sometimes in writing we put it after, but in verbal citations it helps your audience to process if they know where you're going first. So what does that look like? Well, here's a couple of examples. We do that using an intro phrase. Something like, according to so-and-so, this information. When I interviewed college instructor John Doe and observed his English 101 class, I found out this information. A third example would be Jason Hammersmith, a journalist with the Dallas Times, describes in his February 13th, 2016 article that, and then there's our information. Now, as you can see, this is getting a little bit wordy, and that's one thing we're going to have to strike a balance between. What information does my audience really need to know about this source? First thing we want to do, however, is we're going to watch a video of a very short clip, it's only 1 minute long, of somebody giving an informational speech. This is the very beginning of it, and I want you to listen to her verbal citations she gives in this speech. See if you can pick them out.
There are many components of feng shui, the most important of which is qi. According to Sarah Rosbach, author of the book Feng Shui, The Chinese Art of Placement, qi is defined as the energy flow that connects all things, and it has a profound impact on our lives. Simon Brown describes qi as carrying thoughts, ideas, emotions, dreams, and energy from the environment. Practitioners of feng shui maintain that it can move through air, people, buildings, windows, and doors. The flow of qi is the basis of feng shui. The aim of feng shui is to improve this qi which is accomplished by altering your surroundings. There's good and bad qi that flows throughout buildings such as this one. For example, the sharp corners on this lectern create negative qi because sharp corners cause qi to swirl, creating confusion or illness. Another problem in this room is that there are no windows. Sunlight is crucial because it's the main medium that keeps qi moving.
Okay, so that was a really short clip, and obviously her speech would have gone on. But listen to what she did. Very early on in the first part of that, she said, according to Sarah Rosbach, author of the book Feng Shui, and then she presented the information. She told us who said that information and also her credentials. Then she said, Simon Brown describes qi as blah, blah, blah. She even did one more that was a little bit more subtle, but she said practitioners of Feng Shui maintain that. So she included 3 verbal citations very quickly, very early on to define in particular the terms that she was using. So this is a really good, very simple, very straightforward example of using verbal citations in your speech. Now, you have to find a balance of all of the information that should be included and what can be left out. So we've got 2 examples here. The first one, according to Harvard University professors Dr. Smith and Dr. Jones, research on this topic, published in the summer 2015 issue of the New England Journal of Medicine. Now think about that compared to the second one. A 2015 study in the New England Journal of Medicine reports that Harvard University professors information. So the top one is what we call a full verbal citation. It includes all the information. We've got the authors, we've got their credentials, we know it was published here, and this is when it was published. That's a ton of information. But as you probably heard when I tried saying it, that's a bit of a mouthful. In the second one, it's abbreviated. It was a 2015 study. It was in the New England Journal of Medicine, and it was reported by Harvard professors, but we've decided their names aren't important, their credentials are. This still includes the most important aspects of that source. It gives enough information of where to find that article, but it's a little less cumbersome to say. We're going to watch one more quick video. This one's about 4 minutes long, and this is a short video by a college professor talking about kind of the do's and don'ts of orally citing sources. And she kind of takes it beyond, here's how you do it, to here's some additional things to think about to make yourself more clear.
I wanted to take a few minutes to briefly address how to properly incorporate an oral source citation into your speech. Now, first thing, why are you doing this? Orally citing sources adds to your credibility. It makes you as a speaker look like you really know what you're talking about because likely you're not the given expert on any topic. However, you've done the research and you're going to bring those experts into your speech to make yourself sound more credible. But you can plagiarize in a speech just like you can plagiarize in a paper by not giving credit to the proper author. So when you orally cite a source, you're giving credit to the author. You also, as a goal, want to give the audience enough information that they could go look up that citation themselves. You're not going to read the whole bibliography, article and page number and everything else to the audience, but you want to give them a little snippet so that if they wanted to look it up, they could. Now, I've got a couple of examples for you, and these are common things I hear students do during oral source citations, but starting with the first one. Research done by Mary Pompous shows that more deaths result from obesity than from cancer or heart disease combined. Okay, Mary Pompous. I don't know who Mary Pompous is, unless this is a really famous person or the President of the United States or something that everybody's heard of. You're going to have to give her some credentials. So this is the correct way. Research done by Mary Pompous at the Centers for Disease Control. Okay, now she works for the Centers for Disease Control. That's a credible organization. Shows that blah, blah, blah. So that's a good source citation. Another one I get frequently is according to yahoo.com or according to bing.com, blah, blah, blah. Well, Yahoo or Bing are search engines. They're not actual sources that you're citing. You're using Yahoo or Google to get to that source, but that's not the actual source. So again, here's another way.
So I just want to pause here and and mention that that goes for databases as well. You can't just say according to SIRS Issues Researcher or according to ProQuest. Those are search engines. They're not the source itself. You need to do a citation that actually talks about the source you're looking at, such as the one she's going to show you now as an example.
You can cite it. A study done in 2007 at Harvard University shows that more deaths result from obesity than from cancer and heart disease combined. Now, again, if the audience wanted to go look that up, they could look up 2007, Harvard, obesity, and they'd probably find that source pretty quickly. 69% of Americans are overweight or obese. Oftentimes, when I hear a statistic or a number in a presentation as a speech teacher, it sends up a big red flag for me because I know you didn't go out personally and survey the American public about their weight problems. Somebody did that research, and so I know it came from somewhere. So make sure you give the background for that numerical data. 69% of Americans are overweight or obese according to a 2007 research study by Harvard University. All right, so that's good. Last one. An article I read said that the more deaths result from obesity than from cancer and heart disease combined. Okay, great that you read the article, but you got to tell us which article it is. So, a November 15th, 2010 article in Newsweek magazine said that blah, blah, blah. So that works a little bit better. Now, notice all of these are indirect source citations. I'm not giving a direct quote. If you are giving a direct quote from somebody, you could just say, Mary Pompous from the Centers for Disease Control said that. You can pause for just a second there and then give the quote. You don't have to say quote unquote. You don't have to do the little finger quotes in the air. Just say that this person said, and then you give just a slight pause, and then you go on with the quote. And that's a good way to do a direct citation. So make sure that you incorporate good oral citations into your speeches. For the informative and persuasive speech, I require 3 oral source citations from 3 separate sources. So again, do the research, but then also tell the audience about that research with your oral citations. Thanks.
Okay, now obviously she just said that for her class she requires 3. You are required for our class to use 2. You're required to find at least 2 sources and include oral citations or verbal citations, however we want to call them, from them. However, I am going to be evaluating you on how well you're introducing them. Do those verbal citations include the information that they need to include? And are you making sure to avoid those common errors that she just talked about in that video? Our next step is you're going to try writing some verbal citations for your sources. I'm going to ask you to do this as sort of a pre-writing step so that I can give you feedback on them. And then if you are struggling with them, when you go to actually put them in your speech, you'll have gotten feedback and you'll be able to do it correctly. So go on over to Schoology, the Schoology assignment for today, and complete the writing verbal citations exercise. Thank you.